We're gonna get started. I'll start off with the prayer, and I think we're gonna have a very good class today. Rodney, I'd like you to keep Elizabeth's microphone on during the whole time so she can chirp in on this conversation, on this class, because I was talking to her about it yesterday and she made some really good points. She had some really good points about what we were talking about. And I told her if she could remember them in the class, just to speak up and so all of us could be a part of the conversation, because what we're going to be talking about is trauma and chronic pain and how all of this pertains to what we've been talking about from the very beginning of our classes that we started, and learning that it's a language that is actually going through your body, and you recognizing it for language and finding out exactly where to look at to fix it. But we'll go into our prayer first, and then we'll get started. Creator, Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful day and the ones that are here to celebrate this class and day with us, and bless each and every single one of us, and bless the ones that are hurting. Place people in their pathways to lighten up their day so that they do not feel like they're all by themselves, because none of us are alone. There's always somebody there. You are always there, whether we see it or not. Thank you for filling our hearts full of love. For the lesson that is coming out now is unconditional love to be spread throughout the world so that we can heal and relieve all the judgments and stuff that we place upon things. Just unconditional love. Fill our hearts full of that and light our lights so that we can help others relight their lights and bring their lights back into shining brightly. Uh-oh.
Play a song?
Yes.
Come on.
One world, one people, one tribe, one tribe. What I know.
We stand all together, one voice saying yes we can. Each one, reach one till we pull ourselves up, cause we all one fam. From the rest to the block, to the Perry, to the rock, we connect that love. Cause the people with power feel the power of the people when we stand as one.
I got you stuck off the realness. We be indigenous, you heard of us. Max Heaven, the murderer, spreading the love with the water and earth. And the stand against hate, gotta know what the purpose is. We rise, the climate is changing, signs of the times. It's time to start praying. Pray for the world and community. Prayers are more powerful when we're in unity.
woke up today, hungry for a change, new path to take. Can't stay the same, it's been too long. Pointing out who's right or wrong, can you hear me out? All we need is a little bit of love. Take time to heal and it starts with us. Hand in hand, I put my trust. In one world, reunite, it's a must. Hold on to hope, we can overload. We can break the code with a single note. Sing out for the world to hear that our time is now, no more for tears. I looked into my son's eyes, a new day in a new light. Lift the veil and dwell so peaceful. Come together, one world, one people.
What I know, we are one. What I know, no, we are one. It's who you are, it's who I am. We all bleed the same blood, yeah. Hey. We all bleed the same blood, yeah.
We got beautiful differences. Let me give you a peek. Over 500 tribes, but we all unique. And if we could not compete to eat, nothing could beat us. Jealousy is more dangerous than diabetes. See this unity? Imagine what it looked like. You would think we would do whatever it took, right? I would do anything for this good life. We could do anything if we unite. Come on.
Young native, you are my savior. Say a prayer for our inspiration. From the block to your reservation. Any color, all my relations. From the basement, worldwide invasion. Every day we're painting our faces. Fighting back but learning our language. Dancing our dances, saying our prayers.
What I know, we are one. What I know, we are one. We only got one world. We only got one world. We only got one world. Yeah. All we got is one voice, one choice, one earth, one love, one birth, one life to live. One life to live, yeah.
One people, we stand all together, one voice saying yes we can. Each one, reach one till we pull ourselves up, cause we all one fan. From the rest of the block to the Perry to the Rock, we connect that love. Cause the people with power, for the power of the people when we stand as one.
What I know, we are one. What I know, we are one. What I know, we are one. We are
Beautiful song, all yours, Shahwin.
All right. I thought that was a beautiful song too, and that's what we're all trying to bring about is the oneness, you know, the unity, to realize that we're all the same. It doesn't matter what color we are. We all have the same feelings and we bleed the same type of blood. And learning to get along with one another is the hardest thing, because we've been taught how to, you know, have conflict. Back to what I was saying on this class today, we're going to talk about trauma, and each one of us in some part of our lifetime, we've had trauma. Something bad has happened to us, whether it be a car wreck, whether you got abused, beaten, you know, abandonment. All of that is referred to as trauma. And each one of us responds to that trauma in a different way. If it happens to you as a child, like I said, most of us, it happened when we were kids. We didn't know how to handle it because people didn't teach us. Our parents didn't teach us. So our body started protecting our feelings and stuff by pushing them aside, running from it, putting us in fight or flight mode. And the longer you did that as a safety net, the more of the layers of the onion that you have to peel back. And me and Elizabeth were talking about that. It's like ripping the Band-Aid off because we were putting Band-Aids on everything. And now we're learning how to rip the Band-Aid off and actually get down to the wound and heal it. And a lot of us have these, and it's coming up at this time, and a lot of people. So a lot of people are having these type of issues coming up. The biggest thing is to realize it's a language that your body is doing to teach you how to look and ask questions within yourself. Where is this coming from? Why does this keep happening? Why do I feel like this? Because it's pointing you to a part in your body, because the more we hung on to the trauma and pushed it away, it embedded itself in our body somewhere as trapped energy. And the more the energy got trapped, it also brought disease into our body, and that's where a lot of illness came into our body. And so if you're really trying to clear all of that out, Spirit is going to show you exactly where you need to look at it when you realize that this is a language that your body is telling you. If you're hurting somewhere, it's a language. The only time that it's on the physical plane is if you broke your bone, if you cut yourself and you had to go to the hospital. If it's on the physical like that, that's a physical problem, but most of it stems from trauma, and you've held on to that trapped energy so long that it has created chronic pain in you. There's some doctors out in Germany, their names are let me look, I've got them wrote down here somewhere. Howard, and I'm going to spell out his last name, Schubiner, and Dr. Bessel, Bessel, and his last name is Vanderkolk. Both of these men are from Germany, and that they are doctors, and they work all over the UK to help people with trauma and chronic pain. And they already know that most of the chronic pain that your body is experiencing is coming from your brain, the energy in your brain of a past experience that you've experienced that caused you trauma. And the doctors over there are just now really working with one another, and the practitioners that do massages and acupuncture and all of it to come together, because they're learning that all of that is something that will heal the body together. It needs to be put together, not just a person being given medicine. Because medicine does help it, but medicine also can cover up the energy pattern so that you can't release it and it'll still stay stuck in your body. So we're going to talk about this. When you have trauma, it's very good to talk to others who have experienced the same thing you have as part of your recovery, because that will make you feel not so alone. And that has a lot to do with, people in alcoholism and all of that. That's why they have groups Because if you go to groups, that'll help you realize that you're not just the only person that is experiencing these feelings. So it helps to have somebody to talk to about it and trying to do it by yourself. When you have a conflict with somebody, this is very important. And you know, each one of us don't like conflicts. A lot of us want to walk away as soon as a conflict starts. We just want to turn around and walk away from it. Well, that's not how you fix it. That is fight or flight, you know, and it causes more issues later on. So the best way to resolve it is to hit it straight on and take care of it the minute it starts happening, because if you don't, it will build up until it's so heavy that you have so much stress on you that it's going to start signaling your body in ways, you know, where you can be ill, where you can't sleep. It can cause depression where you're sleeping too much, but it's gonna have these signs, which is the language, you know, that you need to realize it's the language coming through your body so that you can pinpoint how to fix it. So the best way to solve it is to hit it straight on instead of running away from it. You know, address it immediately when it happens. And you know, sometimes we're going to address something that we really don't want to address because we know the other person is going to get really upset. But that's part of respecting yourself too, and respecting how it's going to cause issues within you. This is unconditional love for yourself and others. This is being authentic and knowing that it's okay to speak about these things and fix them when it starts happening, instead of trying to brush it underneath the rug, because we know it's going to cause problems with other people. Because, you know, we've been taught from a very young age, you know, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, you know. And if that got put in your head, you will actually end up being abused and disrespected by other people, because you will not voice your opinion because you don't want to hurt somebody else's feelings. Okay, and that's not what that do unto others, you know, is about. You're very important too, and the way you feel. You must first respect all of that, your authentic self, and be okay with yourself and love yourself unconditionally. We are human. We will have bad days. We will cuss. We will argue. We'll do all of that because we're human. None of us are perfect. And actually, Creator does not want us to be perfect. You know what he wants us to do? He wants us to experience all of this and learn from it. You know, and that's what we're doing. But a lot of us, you know, pushed it aside. And like I said, I'm one of them. I pushed it aside for a long time. But I'm also learning from it now, because I'm actually having to take all these layers off. And I wished I'd have had somebody to show it to me when I was in my 20s. But, you know, everything happens when it's time too. You can't rush anything. But the more you learn, the more you heal yourself, right? And the more that you can understand that this is a language, and you're going to be able to remove that trauma or that trigger. I'll call it the trigger. You'll be able to fix that trigger, and it won't trigger you anymore to respond the way you have. Whether it be walking out of the room, being angry and starting yelling, it's going to fix that trigger, and you're going to start learning to respond in a different way, in a positive way. believe it or not, our brains, if you will go and listen to those two doctors that I gave you their names a few minutes ago, they have broadcasts on YouTube, and they're pretty long. They're pretty lengthy, 3 to 4 hours long. But you'll learn so much if you really want to invest your time in that. And they've studied the brain waves and stuff, and they actually have found out that your brain creates your experience that you have in your body. So I want you to really think about that. Your brain creates the experience that you have in your body. Because the pain does not actually come from the body part. It is a signal that has come from your brain. And the only time that the pain will come from your body part is if it's broke or if you cut it. So I want y'all to really think about that, because when I started thinking about it, I realized they were correct. The pain all this pain and suffering that I've went through has came from my brain. Even though my legs hurt, my arms hurt, I hurt all over. It's being sent from my brain. It's not being sent from my body part. And so the past week or so, I've been really working on the chronic pain that I have, because I have a lot of chronic pain. What I've also learned is that is also a sign of having blocked energy in your body. And I've talked a lot about blocked energy. We talked about the chakras. We've talked about the two wolves and our energy patterns. So this is not nothing new. This is just getting in a little bit deeper into the aspects of what blocked energy can look like in your body, and also what it can feel like in your body, so that you can recognize it. When it shows up as a blocked energy, and let's just say, I'll give you an example. Well, let's say you wake up and your leg is just hurting so bad, but you haven't done anything. Like you didn't get out and hurt your leg, you didn't do no strenuous lifting or anything, but it's just aching. Then that's more likely blocked energy, and it's coming from trapped energy in your body. And your brain is trying to show you where you need to pay attention to yourself at. And usually if you focus on that pain, if you are in awareness of what your mind is thinking about during that time, it's going to take you to a memory or bring something up from the past, and that's going to be the trigger. Even if it is like, I'll use this as an example. Okay, I woke up with my leg hurting, and I'm like, why is my leg hurting? I haven't done anything. And then I had this thought going, oh, I remember hurting my leg when I was 8 years old. Well, guess what? That's where you start at. You get a piece of paper, write that down, and really look at that and try to bring up those feelings that you had when you were 8 years old, when you hurt your leg. Did your mother comfort you? Was there a lack of anybody paying attention to you? And it's going to show you your triggers of what you needed at that time and why that energy got trapped there, because there was some type of sorry, I lost my train of thought. Sherry, I'm so sorry for that. And I hold you in my prayers and stuff. You and Rodney and everybody else that's going through death right now in their family.
That is Susan.
I know. And Susan. But,
Well, if we bring up a memory from the past and we realize is that the trigger? What do we do once we realize that that's the trigger now?
okay. Thank you. Thank you. See, that's why you were supposed to help today. When you realize what the trigger is, then you really need to get like a notebook and write down ask yourself to send the emotions that you felt during that triggering time. Okay, and you're going to start changing your thought process about the trigger, because it's going to bring up a lot of things. And one of the biggest things is it can be so stressful on you that it can be crippling to the point where you can't move, or you can't even call somebody to help you at that time. And
Right.
that's like a major trigger when that happens. And so to work through it is, get you a piece of paper and fill the emotions and write them down. Like I wrote out a whole bunch of emotions, like emotional isolation, where you feel, this is the crippling one where you feel like you can't even pick up the phone to call anybody right now. It emotionally, isolates you so that you can't, because you're in so much guilt and shame and the feeling of helplessness. Sometimes it can be horror, sadness. Fear is the number one thing. So if you can work through the fear and not be so fearful of it, that's going to help you break out of the traumatic part of it, where you pick up the phone and call somebody. You're going to experience grief and depression, abandonment for sure. As a child, if you were abandoned as a child, that will be a very dominant trigger for you. Another one will be nobody cares. Nobody cares. And that's one of those that will actually cripple you and keep you from reaching out for help. You'll feel very defeated, unworthy, have no self-esteem, feel like you're not good enough. And that's where it's hitting you at too. Okay. And I want you to be aware of that. It's hitting you in your solar plex, in your self-esteem and self-worth area. Okay. And the very first thing you need to realize is to tell yourself that these are past memories. I'm okay right now. It's okay. Learning to be okay with your memories is a very big thing. Learning to be okay with it, because the biggest thing we to learn is that we don't live in the past. We're not in the past anymore where that took place. And if you're looking in the future to the what ifs, that can cause you a lot of stress too, and triggers through fear. I'm not going to make it. There's too much on my plate, or too many people are expecting too much from me and I'm not good enough. all these things can come and affect you and cripple you. And this is where your gratitude comes in for yourself too, because you have to really work on giving yourself gratitude and understanding that you're okay. And it's okay. These things did happen to you, but this is not who you are today. And let me tell you, this is not easy. This is really a hard, I don't even want to call it a lesson that you go through. It's just a hard time in your life when you're having to go through it. I call it walking through the depths of hell. Because sometimes you do feel like you're in hell and there's nobody there to help pull you out. Because really nobody can pull you out of it except for yourself. And when you do pull yourself out, it's because you have changed that vibration. Remember, energy is a vibration. Getting stuck on a lower vibrational level is what's going on with a lot of people right now. And we always have to realize to keep our vibration as high as we can. When these things take place, like I said, it comes from your brain. So the very first thing, your brain is going to start responding, and there's many ways that it can respond to it. Eating. Okay, how many eat for comfort? Okay, a lot of us do. Okay, how many go shopping for comfort? Let me go buy me something new, and then it'll make me feel better. So I'm going to be a shopaholic. Okay, and you know, some of us sleep all the time, because if you go to sleep, you don't have to look at nothing. You can just sleep and you'll feel better when you get up, and then when you don't feel good, go back to bed. You know, and all of this becomes habits that we're not aware of. You know, but all of these are triggers that our body, you know, that we have, instead of facing the conflict and looking at it and writing down all these emotions that we're feeling and talking to ourselves about them, we replaced it with eating. And I'm going to use that as an example. Okay. A lot of people eat to comfort themselves when they're feeling bad. And so to break that habit, because it does become a habit and a pattern, start buying you healthy food. Apples and cheese is the best. Really, apples and cheese is the best when you're needing to have comfort food, and you know that you've been triggered. Get you some apples and cheese, and stay away from the, you know, the banana splits and the ice cream and the cookies and the cakes. Because eventually, if you continue eating like that, what it's going to do is it is going to create an illness in you, like diabetes, you know, all kinds of stuff. Overeating, you know, your body weight's going to fluctuate, and it's going to make you not feel good because you can't get around because you got too much weight on your body. A lot of things can happen. Okay, the same thing with shopping. Now you go shopping to make yourself feel good, but there's always a kickback to that, because remember, this is part of the two wolves too coming into play. They're eating energy. So you need to ask yourself, which wolf am I feeding at this time? When you shop, I've known a lot of people that have went shopping, and some of them have shopped. This could go with gambling too, to the point where they don't even have money to pay their bills anymore, you know, because they've done spend all their money on shopping or gambling. And I've seen many people take their stuff back to the store to get their money back. You used to could do that a lot, but you can't do that very much anymore. But it puts you in this spin, in this cycle where you're all stressed and you stay stressed of, why did I do this? How come I'm punishing myself? Because it is a form of punishment. We can be our worst enemies at times and our worst abusers because we're not respecting ourselves enough to see that this is a language that's coming through to us that needs to be fixed and understood. Okay, exercise. We know exercise is good for us, but how many of us really truly exercise? But okay, Robbie, yes, I know you do. You get out there and walk around. And that's really good because did you know if you can just walk for 10 minutes a day and take 10 deep breaths a day, that your body will become so much healthier than when you didn't do that. Just 10 deep breaths, okay? Or walking 10 minutes. If I walk 10 minutes, that'd be probably about the average of me walking out my front door to my stop sign at the end of my road and walking back. That'd probably take me about 10 minutes. And it's very helpful. But what this does for you, when you grab an apple and cheese, instead of the comfort food, or it resets your brain, where that trigger had started, it resets it back to its natural flow and pattern. And that's what we want to get back to, is resetting it back into balance so that it can work properly. And the more that you can figure out what these triggers are, the more that you will reset your brainwave and the energies that are going through it. Now, one of the best things that will help you is Tai Chi and yoga. And remember to celebrate life. Celebrate your life. It's okay to bring joy into your life. How many of us bring joy into our lives? Okay, how many of us really bring joy into our lives? And really, how many of us know what joy is? Because there is a difference. And I'm going to let Elizabeth explain the difference. There's a difference between joy and happiness. Is there not, Elizabeth? So
Right.
I'm going to hand it to you.
I was listening to something on the internet the other day, and this guy was talking about the difference between joy and happiness. And I thought, well, that doesn't even make sense. If you're joyous, you're happy. And if you're happy, you're joyous. But really what it boiled down to was, is that in our humanness, we always want to be happy. We're going to be happy. We're going to be happy if this, or we're going to be happy if this happens or that happens, or somebody comes into my life in a perfect way, or all of these things that we keep put in the future that we're going to be happy. That's kind of on the outside of us that we're looking for. Joy, however, comes from within. When we witness it, when we feel it, when we sense it, when we love it. That's the joy. And of course, then we are happy for that time being, but we're always still looking for it's going to be better, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. So it's like the yin and the yang of that place in your heart that is joyous, or if your whole being feels happy. Which is it, an emotion, or is it a feeling, or where is that coming from, and what are we looking for? Are we really looking to the future for that happiness, or can we find it right here now? And part of that is when we realize that we're in a bad place, we're suffering, we are hurting, we're sad. I think the biggest thing we can do is raise our vibration. And that is consciously saying, okay, what can I do in this moment that I'm feeling this way, to raise my vibration and not be in this low place, but raise it to be in a higher place. And that brings our soul and our spirit to that point of, okay, I'm okay now. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be happy, but I'm joyful right now that I'm raising my vibration and I'm feeling better. I feel better and I feel release. And a lot of that release comes peace. In my journey, I felt a lot of things have happened that I didn't intend to happen to me, but a lot of it happened because I needed to learn something or be witness to something. And now I realize that there's a reason I went through what I did. Or it doesn't mean I was happy about it, doesn't mean I was even joyful about it. But I've come to a place where I can recognize it and call it what it is and move on from that. Does that make sense?
That's very good. Thank you. Yes, that was very good. So celebrate life. It's okay to have joy. You know, understand what joy is. Understand, you know, ask yourself what you think joy looks like for you, because it's going to be different for each one of us. But what Elizabeth said, is correct. Happiness and joy are two different things, but they're on such a fine line that I told her that they're probably on the yin and the yang of each other. You know, is why it's so close for and hard to separate and look at. So take a good look at your life, write it down, take a good look at your life, have a reflection on it, you know, concentrate on what's important for you. What are you really trying to do right now at this point in time in your life that will make you feel better about yourself or make you love yourself better, you know, and really focus on that. Strengthen your bonds with your friends and your families, the ones that you want to be around. Reassess all your personal goals that you set for yourself, and set little tiny goals, not ones that will take you years to reach. Because if you set the ones years out without setting any little ones to reach, you'll feel like you failed before you even get there because it's taken so long for you to get there. So set you little tiny goals that you can achieve, which will know that you're in movement and that you're making progress into what you're putting forth and creating in your life. Always get back to yourself. Get back to yourself and then give back to others. That's part of bringing unconditional love in. And that's what we're all striving for, is bringing that unconditional love to the world and to ourselves. The biggest number one thing is always bring your mind back to the present moment. And I hope each and every single one of y'all write this down. Bring your mind back to the present moment. Because if you're not in the now, you're not balanced. If you're not in the now, you're not in awareness. And so the minute you get in the now, we'll stop the running of the old pattern that's in your brain. That's how you reset your brain pattern, is by staying in the now. And when you start doing that, you're going to see a big difference, because it's going to break you out. It's going to break you up out of your rut that you're in. And I know a lot of y'all think y'all are in the rut, and you kind of are. But it's going to take you and move you out of that rut, because you're going to be in the now. And that's all that we have is the now. But we need to learn to stay in it at all times, stay in the present moment. That's how the unconditional love is going to come in. Stop looking into the future. It's okay to talk about the future and set goals for the future, but don't get into what ifs. Well, what if we wait this long and this doesn't happen? If you're doing that, then you're already back in that old pattern. Get back into the now. And let go of them thoughts. Don't let them hold on to you. Okay? I want y'all to look at how you get angry. Okay, I want y'all to write that down, and I want you to really study, how do you respond when you get angry? And look at how you respond. Okay, when you get angry, and then learn to change it into a positive movement, into a better way without bringing the anger out. You can do this with many things, and this will train and reset your brain so that when those triggers come up, you won't have to deal with that old pattern coming back. You'll be breaking that old pattern till eventually that old pattern's not going to be there anymore. But if you do have anger issues, the best thing to do is remove yourself from the place that caused you to be angry, and take a couple of deep breaths, walk up some stairs, do some type of exercise for a few minutes to bring your body back into alignment too, because see, this affects your physical, your emotional, your mental. All of that can get out of whack depending on how bad and how old the pattern is that is running in you that caused the trigger to begin with. Okay. And of course, we were talking about, the eating. A lot of us eat for comfort. Some of us clean. Now, when I get upset, and I mean truly, truly upset, I will clean my house from top to bottom. And I could be very truly upset for 3 or 4 days cleaning. Somebody called me, "What are you doing? Cleaning?" Why are you doing that? I don't know. But the real reason is because I was angry. And instead of facing it the proper way, I decided to clean all my frustrations out, because, having a clean house, even the smell of it being clean would keep me from, addressing it. For me, that's a trigger. Okay, will I still continue to clean my house? Yeah, I'll probably still continue to do that. But I'm realizing that is something that I did when I get triggered. So I'm going to learn how to address that trigger in a different way, so that I can actually heal that trigger so it doesn't trigger me anymore, if that makes any sense to y'all. That was a lot of words right there. Now, I thought this was really good. We're going to close out with 15 things to remember. Now, y'all don't have to write them down right now. You can go back later and listen to them and write them down, in your own spare time after Rodney puts it up on YouTube. But I thought these were really good. Number one is get up with the sun to pray and do your prayers alone. If you have a mate, do prayers with your mate too, but always have that sacred time with Creator by yourself too. Number two, be tolerant of those who have lost their way. Ignorance, presumptions, anger, jealousy, and greed come from a lost soul. So the best thing to do for them is to pray for them to find guidance, pray that somebody will come and help them, because there's a lot of them that are hurting right now out in the world. Number 3, before you try to fix somebody else, please fix yourself. And how do you fix yourself? By finding yourself. That's, do not let others make your path for you. It's your path. Okay, and only you can make that path. Now, others can walk with you on the path, but no one can make that path for you or walk it. So just remember that. So create your path. If you're creating your path, then you want to create it in goodness, right? You want to create it in the now, not in the past where you had lots of pain and suffering, or not in the future where you don't know the what ifs of what's going to happen. You want to create all those emotions now. Joy, love, unconditional love, you want to create that in your thought process. And when you do, it's going to bring it, everything it's going to bring it to you. Number 4, this is very important. When you have guests at your house, treat them with great consideration. Some people just, when they have guests, they don't really take good care of them. They say, here's the towels. If you need anything, let me know, because they've got so used to doing that. But treat your guest with consideration and do the best for them, because when you put your best foot forward, that's what you're going to receive back from the universe. So remember, however you want to be treated, that's, treat your guests that way, because if you do that, that's what's going to come back to you. And always give them respect and honor, because we're always looking. Each and every one of us are looking for respect and honor within inside ourselves. You do have to give that to yourselves first. But when you give it to somebody else, it does come back to you in very beautiful ways. And you'll know it when it comes back to you. Number 5, do not take anything that is not yours. Okay, and this is also, don't take nothing from anybody's stuff. From a community, do not take nothing from the forest unless you ask. There's a lot of people that'll walk in the forest and find stuff and pick it up and just take it. Well, there's consequences for that. There's a system, and then the same with the culture. Don't take somebody else's culture and try to use it. It wasn't given out like that, and you didn't win it, and it's not yours to use like that. So, be very conscientious on how you present yourself. Number 6, respect all the things that are on the earth, including the people, the plants, and the animals. And that means the ones that have killed people, that have done stuff wrong, those are the ones that need the help the most, because they're very lost. So they need prayer and they need guidance, because that could have been you. And in a lot of ways, it is you. Because we are all the same. And we're all learning lessons at different increments but each one of us is learning something. And when you put that together in that circle can become one big, huge circle of love and understanding once it's all said and done. And that's what actually we call the sacred hoop. And right now, the sacred hoop has been broken for many years, but we're bringing it back together through learning all of this and learning how to understand one another and learning that it's okay. We're okay, and it's okay to feel some things. But it's how you respond to them. You need to respond to them with love and understanding and unconditional love. Honor the thoughts, desires, and wonders of all people. Never break them down and make them feel that they're not no better or better than you, or intimidate them. Because each person has the right to have their own personal expression, whether you like it or not. Never talk about others in a bad way. And the reason why is because if you talk to them about in a bad way, you're putting out negative energy. And what you put out to the universe, it will return to you. Now, there is a difference. I have had this conversation with people. When you are setting an example and you're bringing a person into that conversation, their lane for an example, and you're stating nothing but the truth, you're not adding nothing to it, you're not actually telling the story, that's totally something different, okay, than what we're talking about here. But if you are talking negative about and other people and the bad things they're doing, then you don't need to do that. You need to send out love to them, understanding that they're on their path, and you're okay with it. Remember, all of us make mistakes, each and every one of us. And each mistake that you make can be forgiven by God. He forgives you. So if Creator can forgive you for everything you've done, then why are you holding such a judgment over somebody? Just forgive them and move on. This is something that's nature is not for us. This is very important to understand. Nature is not for us. And the reason why it's not for us is because it is a part of us. And I hope y'all get that. We are not, nature and us are not separate, okay? Nature is a part of us, and we are a part of nature. And so when somebody tells you to go out there and get a part of nature, go put your feet on the ground, always remember you're a part of it. You don't have to go get it. The minute you think of it, you can visualize yourself being in nature. If you were in the middle of the desert and there wasn't any trees around, you could visualize nature being around you. And that's because nature is a part of you. It's not absent from you. And a lot of people don't realize that. She's the part of your whole world, and she's inside your space. So I want you to think about that. She's not outside your space, she's inside your space. And if you look at it, what all is inside your space? And when you start looking about what all is inside your space, you'll be able to unconditionally love everything, because you'll realize that everything is in that space. Remember that children are the seeds of the future, so show love in your hearts and water those seeds. Water them children with wisdom and help them with their life lessons. You know, because when they grow up, give them the space to grow. You know, give them the space to grow, and you're going to be very proud of them when you do that. Avoid hurting the hearts of others. And sometimes this is hard to do because we hurt people. Sometimes we hurt them without knowing it. But this is the worst poisoning that you can do to a person, and it creates great suffering within them, and it will create great suffering within you, because the heart is the most important part in your body that holds unconditional love. And so you have to be very careful with hurting the hearts of others. And only you will know how to tend to that. I can't tell you how to do that, because our hearts, each one of us, is fully and abundantly full of unconditional love, but it can also be fully filled with hatred, and the opposite can come out. And only that person has control over that through their free will. Try to be as true and transparent as you can be at all times, being honest. Being honest is the test of the universe. Okay? And on your will, you know, are you ashamed of who you are? Are you ashamed of what you do? If you're not, you'll show your honesty and your true authentic self to people, and not bat an eye. There will not be no fear involved in it of how they're going to take you, or how it's going to make you feel if they say something to you that they don't, said they don't like about you. Keep yourself balanced. And this is on all levels: your mental self, your emotional self, spiritual, and your physical. That's how you're going to keep yourself strong, pure, and healthy, is through that balance of understanding this language that we're talking about. And it gets really in depth because, when Creator made us, He made us, we're very special. We're like a computer with many opponents. And sometimes we do have to defrag our hard drives because they get clogged up with a whole bunch of stuff that we don't need. But as a computer technician, they know how to defrag the computer. Well, this is what we're learning. We're learning how to remove all this unwanted gunk out of our systems that we don't need anymore. And I'm going to leave you with this, and we're gonna sign off of today's lesson with this. Your tongue has no bone in it. I want you to think about that. It's a muscle, but it's the strongest thing on your body.
You say that again.
Your tongue has no bone in it. It's a muscle.
Your what?
Your tongue.
I don't know what you're saying.
Tongue.
Oh, tongue. Okay. Sorry, I couldn't understand you.
Yes. Well, you see my screen's flipping out. But yes.
Oh, yes.
Your tongue is the strongest part of your body, believe it or not. But there's no bone there. It's just a muscle. But guess what? It can break your heart. It can break your heart into pieces and shatter it. So always be careful with your words. Now, did y'all get that?
Yeah, thank you.
Because that's very important to understand. Always be careful with your words because even in the Bible, it says your tongue is a two-edged sword. You know, it can break you. And some people don't get up from it. And it's caused by other people and what they say about them. And also what their own head tells them. But that's the lesson for today. I hope y'all enjoyed it. And I hope you really do some reflection on it and listen to those two doctors, especially if you have chronic pain or if you're trying to release some traumatic stuff that you have triggers with, because those two doctors can help you a lot, I think. And does anybody have any questions? And Leo, where did Colleen go? Did she go lay down?
Yeah, she's just sitting down here in the easy chair. She's not doing so good. She's about 2 days behind me in recovery. So
Yeah.
this is a long process, and we just have to suck it up.
Prayers and blessings.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, she's got worse than me. I gave it to her. I passed it on to her. So I picked it up in the clinic. So, oh well. So we'll get over this though.
Get better. Hi, Shawin. I think today's subject is really important and not talked about a lot. And people just say, well, I have a trigger. I have a trigger. I have a few things to share about that. Like I've noticed that when women go to give birth, for example, if they've had a trauma in their body around that area, the sacral chakra area, and when it comes to them giving birth, there's a lot of disconnect, and that's why a lot of them are more apt to use, like, this is not the whole story, like everybody, and it's not even about it's not about shaming, it's about bringing awareness that it's such a natural thing for women to be able to do, but so many have opted to they either feel like they can't do something in that area, like they're incapable, or that they need help from a medical establishment. And not speaking to everyone who's ever gone through like giving birth, saying that they can't, that if they use those things that they're not whole, but just being able to use our own resources and trust our own body. And we stop, I mean, I'm sure this is prevalent in other ways too, but this is the most way I could see it, is that we stop trusting ourselves and our own abilities and what we can do. And we start asking permission from outside sources because we don't feel we're enough or we're strong enough, or there's some kind of blockage there keeping us from doing that. So that's one thing. And we don't always know we have triggers or blockages until those things come up. I feel like it's really important for us to start questioning ourselves, so we can say, okay, well, why is this coming up for us? Not instead of just holding on, like, this is our trigger. But I think and then this would be a wonderful thing for you to comment on, is that there's a lot of shame around traumas. A trauma is said to be a physical and an emotional impact at the same time, and it's held in our fascia, which is a webbing network that connects our muscles. But there's so much shame that comes up around it, and people say it happened to me, and they internalize it and become victim. So how would you say that people can, I've found space is the best way to allow holding space for healing, but what would you say is the best way for people to let go of that shame related to trauma?
That's such a good question. Because of trauma, that's what creates post-traumatic stress syndrome. That's what creates anxiety disorder in a lot of people. It creates so many labels, that the doctors have put on it, so that the person has a diagnosis of what's going on with them. Once you have a traumatic experience, you're going to have that trigger until you can face exactly what happened to you, whether it was sexual abuse, whether you gave birth and it wasn't it wasn't an easy birth, because that is trauma too. If you stay in labor for, let's just say 48 hours, that's trauma on your body. You're in a lot of pain. Pain does a lot of powerful things to your mind. That's what causes a lot of people to commit suicide, because they're in a lot of mental pain. And a lot of people, I was talking to Elizabeth about this, Robin Williams. I mean, you look at him, and he committed suicide, and nobody ever knew that he was, had those problems, but those were traumatic triggers. And he was ashamed, like you said, he was ashamed to tell anybody, because everybody put him on such a high pedestal. Oh, that's Robin Williams. Oh, he makes us laugh. Oh, he's so funny. But he did not, okay, and I'm using him as an example, didn't see himself like that, to the point that he was ashamed to tell anybody he was having these feelings. So he ended up committing suicide. And that's that isolation, where I was telling you, it grips you so hard when at the beginning of this lesson, that it grips you so hard that you can't talk to anybody about it because you're ashamed. And you don't want nobody to know, oh, I feel like this, they're gonna judge me. And that's where we have to break out. And I believe, our class right here, we have a group of people that each one of us could call one another and say, hey, I'm feeling like this. And we would help each other, and we would not be ashamed to tell that person, hey, I'm feeling like this.
What would you say to like maybe people watching that are dealing with that, and maybe they're steps behind in that, they're still in that victim mode, they're still in that shame?
That it can change. They need to, if they feel comfortable of reaching out to one of us here on the group to talk to, since we've been working on ourselves, as somebody to talk to. They can't do it by themselves. That's the biggest thing, is we weren't meant to go through this by ourselves at all. We were meant to connect to one another. That's part of the unconditional love. And it's to remove the isolation where you feel all alone and nobody loves you, because that's a lie. That's not true. But we've been taught that, we've been shown that. But like I said, the groups are coming, the communities are coming. They're going to be built where people can go to these communities and get help. So they would just have to reach out, Sherry. There would have to be some place for them to reach out to. And I know that that didn't answer your question fully, but it's a very hard question to answer, because we're right in the middle of everybody being triggered, you know, and it's hard. It's hard to, if you know that somebody's getting triggered, try to help them the best you can by being a good listener, you know, and letting them know that they don't have to go through this by themselves. And that's the biggest thing but right now, today, there's so many people wanting counseling that it's really sad. The counselors are so full up that it's 4 to 5 months wait before you get in to see a counselor. Now, how's that gonna help somebody that really needs help at that time? But that's where we're at, you know, in the community situation right now. So small groups like this, and just being able to talk to somebody that needs help, try to be there for them, you know, and if you can't help them, then try to guide them to somebody that can, you know. Does that help a little bit?
Yes, thank you. It's just, I feel that there's things like shadow work, or people call it dark night of the soul, that they've experienced, or mirror work, or inner child work. And sometimes we need to go back and tell ourselves that. And so,
Well, yes, because it's hard work to look at all this stuff with inside yourself. It's very hard. And if you're not ready to really work on yourself, then doing shadow work or going to talk to somebody about your triggers, you won't get well if you're not ready to look at yourself, because it is like you are going to dissect yourself. You know, and back in the day, back in the 60s and everything, they don't do this no more. In science class, we had to dissect a frog and learn every part of the frog, you know, in the science class to pass to the next grade. That's kind of what you're doing, you know, we're doing to ourselves, is we're taking piece by piece of our inner selves and looking at it so that we know ourselves. And if a person is not willing to do that yet, they won't be able to help themselves. And that's hard too, because remember, people are feeding off of energy until they realize how the energy works in their body. So a lot of people do like to feed off of that victim energy and not change, you know. And that's where we have to pray for, you know, pray for the understanding for the people, you know, to understand that you have to look inside yourself, and you got to really put forth trying to heal yourself and work on yourself. And it's not easy, because once you start working on yourself, there's no going back. You might stop for a little bit, but there's no turning back after you make that choice. Yeah, I'm gonna work on myself, because Creator's gonna keep letting things happen to you. until you wake up enough and say, hey, I've had enough. It's like beating your head up against a brick wall, you know? How many times you gonna go that way if you keep hitting that wall until you say, I'm not going that way anymore?
I feel like it's that onion you were talking about with the layers. And just when you think it could be, oh, I'm done with that, another layer comes off and you're like, oh, there's still some stuff there.
More.
There's more. I thought
Yep.
it was done.
Yeah, look, me and Elizabeth was talking about that
Yep.
yesterday. Yeah, we were.
It's funny you should say that.
Yeah, because it is like that. You really think you've done your work, and the next thing, I mean, it could be 3 or 4 years down the road before something triggers and shows you that other layer, and you'll be going, oh, I've got that layer down, I did it, and then bam, and you'll go, there's another layer, you know. And I think, you know, it's like I was telling Elizabeth, you know, depending on your age, okay, and depending on when you really started working on yourself and doing your self shadow work and really, that's how long you're gonna have to peel those layers back. Okay, but eventually you're gonna start peeling back good layers, you know, the good layers are gonna be there because that's the yin and the yang of, and that's kind of like they call karma, you know, your karma. If you put this out, you're gonna get this. Eventually, you're gonna get to that good layer, you know, but it could take you the rest of your life. I'm like in my 60s. Okay, so it could take me the rest of my life to get through all my onions, layers. I hope not, because I hope I started putting, you know, good layers, you know, because I've really been working on myself for a long time. But I think you want to do that until you take your last breath, because nothing stays in a permanent thing. It's always moving, it's always changing, and you have to learn to change with it. You know, you have to be able to be creative enough to move and bend with the wind and see what you come, because we're all becoming that rose, you know, that we're going to bloom into this beautiful flower one day.
Kind of feels as
Just
we,
had a thought. Oh, go ahead, Rodney.
kind of feels like as we're peeling the onion, you know, our eyes are burning and the tears are flowing. But then
That's what
learn things. Okay, I put the goggles on. I'm going to wear the gloves, and we still go through it, but we learn how to deal with it in better ways.
I was thinking the same thing.
Mhm.
I mean, every time we cut the onion, what do? It stings, it, we cry, it burns our nose, it's just, and yet we eat it.
Yeah, but how many, you know, how many of you also say to yourself, why did I do that? That was
Yeah.
just, you know, that was just not called for. Be careful when you're doing that, because that's a type of abuse that you're saying to yourself.
What, that it stinks and that it burns?
Yes,
Well, it does.
it does stink and it does burn, but you just need to say, thank you for that lesson. Thank you for that
Right.
understanding.
But I'm thinking, turn it into a spiral instead of a layer.
Yes.
And maybe that aroma will change for us and it would become a rose
Oh,
or become
well,
something
good.
that we can take. Yeah.
That's a beautiful way to look at it, Elizabeth.
I like how it went from an onion to a rose. It's like blooming.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's so great. It's a good lesson, y'all. And I think we're done. So Rodney, if you would like to say the closing prayer, we'll get out of here and Does, do any of you, want to, talk, like Redbird did? I know Leo told me he didn't want to do it for a couple of more weeks because he's still not feeling good. We don't have to. I can do the lesson next week, but if y'all want to, just let me know, raise your hand, and if you don't, I'll do the lesson. All
Hi,
right.
Sherry.
I want to do it, but I'm not sure that I'm quite ready for next week.
Okay, that's be good. That'll be good. Okay, so
Give me,
I'll,
give me another week.
yes, I'll do the lesson for next week then. And maybe we'll do some more about triggers, talking about triggers. I'll see what I can, what spirit says and everything, because this is really important to look at your triggers and stuff to heal.
I went back on some of the notes when we first started the class, and I saw something that was written, because sometimes I like feeling sorry for yourself is one of those things we do too, on top of say shopping and overeating, feeling sorry for yourself puts you in a really deep place at the bottom of the well. Someplace is really hard to get out of, and that's something that I tend to do, but I read something that we wrote, and you wrote sorrow. You said sorrow must be set aside. It's what keeps us from crossing to the other side. And I've had a lot of sorrow in my life where I got in that pit, I felt like so sad, that all this had happened to me, and trying to get myself up out of it was like the most hardest thing in the world. I had to really make a decision to not want to be like this, not want to be like that, not want to spend my life being sorry for what happened to me, and that, so I mean, that was one of the deepest, hardest things for me to overcome. And I was talking to a friend of mine recently, and we were talking just exactly what we're talking about today. We were talking about pain and how it shapes us, and how it makes us who we are. And we have to learn to accept it and to learn to let it help us grow instead of letting it pull us down. I mean, I'd like to hear more about this, because I have a lot of issues along this, conversation. So,
well, then we'll do that, because see, I'm learning a lot about myself, and I'll share it with y'all here. I've shared it with Elizabeth, but and I might have with Leo and them, but I have learned in just the past couple of months that, I've been sick my whole life. I have not been a well person, and but I am coming to understand now that my illnesses, a lot of my illnesses has been part of the triggers that we were talking about from my traumas that I had in my life. So I'm learning, to overcome those, which if I achieve that, I probably won't be sick anymore. But it depends on, it also depends on how bad my body took the beatings, because I do have a body. So we can talk more about that, because that's what I'm learning about myself, but I've been like this my whole life in illness. And just now finding out that these were all from trauma. It came from my head, and it created the pain and suffering in my body. So when you realize that for yourself, it's quite an awe moment, and you have to really look at it and go, wow, all this time I thought it was because I had this illness when it was actually me that did this to myself with my thought process. You know, but am I ashamed of it? No. Now, if you'd have caught me a couple of years ago, I probably wouldn't have told nobody about it because I would have been ashamed of it. But now I'm realizing that no, it was something that I've had to experience so that I can help others that are experiencing to understand it's okay to talk about. There's nothing wrong with talking about it. What's wrong is if you don't try to fix it when you realize that that's what's going on with you. You know. So we'll talk some more about it next week. How about that? So Rodney, would you like to take us out and say the prayer? And I love each and every one of y'all, and I hope y'all have a very wonderful week.
Thank you, Shahowin. Father Sky, Mother Earth, all our ancestors, all our relatives, we call upon you at this time and we thank you. We thank you so very much for this lesson that you conveyed through our beloved sister Shahowin. We thank you how it touched each and every one of our hearts and helped each and every one of us be aware and realize that we don't have to live in the pain caused by the trauma from the past, and we can bring these before you and lay them at your feet and be healed. We thank you for this circle that allows us to realize these things about ourselves and how we can become higher versions of self, and we are grateful. We ask Most High, Most Divine, that you please watch over us throughout this week, that you guide each of us in a good way, protect each of us in every way, and help us each to walk in a way that is pleasing in your sight. We love you and we thank you. Aho.
I hope. Love each and every one of you. See you next week.
Thank you.